Hello. Hello. I can't hear you. We good here? All right, I guess before we get started, I want to recognize a couple of people. Number one, I want to make sure that I recognize Lori. Come on. She's over there right now. Come on, wave to everyone. You know, when you think about growth and you start to think about the things that make you who you are, you have to realize that life doesn't happen in a vacuum, does it? Every single person in this room has been blessed to have people around them, people who encourage them, people who believe in them. And I have this very fortunate opportunity to have had that my entire career. Now, my career started off just like you at a 2-year school. Is anybody happy about having started there? I was telling some people, I said, you know, I got challenged the most when I was at North Harris College. That was my greatest challenge, right there on campus. And I went on from there, and in many ways I felt bored because I felt like I was just a number. I was just a person among the sea of faces. One of the things that we're going to talk about today is how you connect to who you really are in your quest to become a better leader, right? And so I'm very fortunate to have those people. My wife is here, honey, just wave at everyone. If there's any problems, blame her. It's true, and I heard that, right? One of my good friends is over here as well, Steve Scott. Steve and I work together. It's wonderful to have support and to have great people around you. But before we go any further, let me share some thoughts with you, some very basic thoughts. There was an article that came out in 1993, and it talked about what would happen if 99.9% was good enough. Listen to these stats. 2 million documents are going to be lost by the IRS this year alone. Ooh, that would be awesome. Come on, that would be okay. They can lose my documents every year. All right, 22,000 checks will be deducted from the wrong bank account every hour. Now, most of us would assume that 99.9%, that's pretty good, right? Don't you love those commercials that talk about kills 99.9% of the germs, except I'm going to get the 0.01% of the germs. 1,314 telephone calls will be misplaced by telecommunication services every single minute. Right? You're trying to call your best friend, and you end up calling China or something. Or odd. Or my favorite, 12 babies will be given to the wrong parents each day. Honey, you have some explaining to do. That's what I would say, right? 2,488 books will be shipped with the wrong cover on them. That's a little awkward, especially as expensive as textbooks are. I didn't say that loud, did I? 5.5 million cases of soft drinks will be produced every single year that'll be flatter than a bad tire. I know, I wanted some fizz, I didn't get it. 20,000 incorrect drug prescriptions will be written every 12 months. So, here's my question for you as we start off talking about this journey of leadership. What kind of leader are you? Are you the leader that's okay with it being 99.9% good enough? Or are you the kind of leader that always seeks to get things done right? I always ask audiences all the time, if you don't have time to get it done right, when are you going to have time to do it over? Oftentimes we only have one shot at getting things done correctly. You and I have to take that opportunity and make sure we make it count. You with me so far? All right, so I'm gonna share with you what my leadership journey has been like. I could sit here and talk to you about leadership theory. That could be fun for me, maybe not for you. But let's talk about leadership practically, right? Let's try and draw or create a bridge between theory and practice. One of the things I've learned about leadership is, in the simplest, crudest way, half the time it stinks because it's a lot of work and it's got a lot of pain attached to it. There's a lot of adversity that comes with being a leader. Now, I'm not sure if it was put on the program, but I was going to be talking about leadership or leading from the back, right? And most people assume that's necessarily the people that you're leading being in front of you and being in the back, but the truth is, if you ever go to a symphony, you will notice one thing. The maestro only faces the audience 2 to 3 times. That's it. When he walks in, and right when the show is complete. Excuse me, right when the show is complete. He will walk away, face the audience, bring the first chair, face the audience, bring everybody up, face the audience, and it's done. The rest of the time, he focuses on whom? The orchestra that he's leading. So here's my question. Whose voice are you listening to as a leader? Who are you paying attention to the most as a leader? This is the thing about, adversity. Marcus Aurelius put it so perfectly. The art of living is more like wrestling than it is dancing. Most of us assume that leadership, or life in general, is supposed to be fun. Now, don't get me wrong, I love to have fun. Anybody else love to have fun? I was kind of jealous earlier. I saw the balls in the air and all that was going on. I was like, it'd be kind of cool to just take my jacket off and be like everybody else. But I was like, no, I have to be all distinguished. I don't even know what that word means. Right? So, yeah, this is going to work out great. All right, 15 more minutes of this. We got this. Here's another thing. Everyone, people tell you that, there's a lot of things out there that aren't free except advice. You have to be careful where you get your advice as a leader, because people will give it to you, especially when you don't want it. You ever notice how more people know about what's best for you than you do? Isn't that annoying? Or is it just me? It's really annoying, right? No, you should turn left here. No, you tell you what, this here is a lot better. Everyone always has advice. This is my advice for you, because it's free, kinda. All right? Be careful where you get your advice. Be careful who you are listening to, because those people will absolutely influence who you become. You and I have to have better filters. Those filters will help us sift through all the advice and recognize people for who they are. Because let's be honest, some people are just unsmart, and we're being nice about it, aren't we? They're just not too bright. That usually means the things coming out of their mouth aren't bright either. They don't know it. We don't have to tell them. We really don't. We just have to be careful which filters we pay attention to the most. You and I, we're going to be great leaders, we have to be ambitious. Can you imagine what kind of ego you have to be a leader? Well, nobody expected to hear the word ego and leader in the same sentence, did they? Oops. Right? I don't have a problem with ego, by the way. I think ego is a great thing. And that just ruined it for everyone. I'll say it again. Ego is a great thing. Because every single human being needs a certain dose of ego in order for them to do things that are extraordinary. I had to have some ego to assume I could ask a woman to marry me and she would say yes. I know, it is some ego there. Because think about this. Let's think about this logically, all right? We're a bunch of educated people in here, right? At least we're going to pretend like we are. So, number one, you have to assume you can take care of this person emotionally, you can take care of this person spiritually, you can take care of them in multiple ways, and you can provide for them an environment where they can flourish and grow. We should really patent that right there. Somebody recording this, that sounded really good. Right? That's the assumption. Well, this is the problem with super ego, or having this ego where you think everything is a whole lot better than it really is. It's assuming you don't need any help along the way, right? Every leader that's going to be successful has a measure of ego. It's when ego goes on steroids that things get really bad. People start to assume they can handle it by themselves and they don't need any help. Let me tell you a story about an insurance claim. This one is real. This person wanted to move 100 bricks, the little red bricks, from one location to another. And he made a claim to the insurance company. Excuse me, and the insurance company required him to recount exactly what happened when, at least what was going on in his head. That was a mistake. What were you thinking when you moved the bricks from that corner to this other corner? He said, well, I figured all the other people were too busy. So I figured I could handle all the bricks from that corner to the other side, and then I threw my back out. Now, if you're the insurance adjuster, what are you thinking at this moment? Yeah, somebody said it over here, right? Was you from New York? What are you, stupid? I don't know where that came from, but I was in Florida last week. That's where it came from. and my cabbie was from New York. So he picks me up from this college to get me back to the airport, and I was like, hey man, I like your shirt. He's like, yeah, this is kind of a nice shirt, isn't it? Except I spilled some coffee on it. I'm like, really, you spilled some coffee on it? What are you doing? I'm like, he's like, I don't know, I just want to drive you to the airport. He didn't stop talking from that moment until we got to the airport. And he said to me, that's just the way I am, man, I have a New York attitude. I'm like, great, I'm a Zambian, I want to pick up a New York attitude. Except mine is kind of laced with some Texan in it. Right? Almost like I'm from East Texas, right? You know the first thing I learned, this has nothing to do with leadership, we're taking a commercial break. First thing I learned when I moved to Texas, you have to say certain things. First of all, I can't say y'all. I'm working on it, I can't say y'all correctly, but I can say this, I tell you what. And the best part about that, you don't have to say anything. People will ask you a question, just look at them and say, I tell you what. And I say, what? I'm like, I done told you. Anyway, moving on. Another thing I've learned as a leader is you have to ask questions, right? You have to ask questions. You know that millions and millions of people saw the apple fall. You know the only person that asked why? Newton. Isaac Newton was the only person that ever asked. Everybody else was like, oh, this is kind of cool, right? We've reached a point in our society where people don't ask questions anymore. They assume everything is great, everything is going to be okay. They have a huge, thank you very much. It's awesome. Thank you very much, East Texas. Anyway, she really is from East Texas, awesome. Tell you what. Anyway, a lot of people saw this apple fall, nobody asked why. We have Isaac Newton, he turns around, and now we have these laws that we know truly govern the way we live our lives. Does that make sense? As a leader, those are the kinds of breakthroughs that we're supposed to be looking for. If we're not looking for that as leaders, why are we here? Right? Most people assume that leadership is about a position. And let me really hurt you a little bit. If you depend on your position to lead, you're a poor leader. Because leading has nothing to do with your position. Right? Assuming a mom and a dad are supposed to have a leadership position in their home, having that title is not enough. You have to exemplify leadership, correct? You have to ask the right questions, and oftentimes we have to ask ourselves the right questions, correct? I talked earlier about the New York attitude. You have to have major attitude as a leader, right? You have to have a lot of attitude as a leader. You have to recognize that people will find things that are wrong all the time, right? There's some people, that's what they major in, right? Got my bachelor's degree in finding out what's wrong with you. That's what they do. They always find something wrong. Things are never good enough. Now, let me back up and backtrack. We talked about 99.9% not being good enough. I get that. But we're human beings, and we have to recognize that human beings do not work on under the same laws as other things. Does that make sense? So we have to recognize that human beings, as long as they bring their best, they bring 100% to it, that's all we're asking for. We know the results may never ever show that to be what it's supposed to be, but if somebody brings 100% all the time, then I'm okay with it. Does that make sense? So we have to have the right attitude. Character is another aspect. And all these qualities I'm sharing with you, any person in this room can have them. You don't have to have special skill. You don't have to have special education. You don't have to have any of that. All you have to do is have a desire. And character is one thing that we have to build. And let me break this down for you. When you think about character, most of us assume it's what people say about us. No, that's your reputation. I never trust my reputation. Never trust your reputation. Trust me, it'll get you into trouble. Because the problem with reputation, it depends on how people are feeling. I never thought about it that way, huh? Right? And the problem with how people are feeling, because emotions are fleeting, if people are feeling good, you have to always keep them feeling good in order for them to think your reputation is where it needs to be. If you live your life by character, it changes everything. It changes the dynamic of how you lead. And then people see you as you really are, flawed like them, but you have a deeper desire to see things changed. You with me still? All right, good. John Wooden said, ability may get you to the top, but you know what keeps you there? Character. Character is what keeps you at the top. I know a lot of people who have a lot of skills, but they have zero character, so they never get to do anything big. Now, big to you might be, I don't know, changing the world completely. Big to you might be changing your community. Big to you might be being the first person in your family to ever graduate college. I don't know what big is to you. But here's the point. If every single person in this room did big, every single person in this room did what they were supposed to do, things that they were called to do, we wouldn't need many more people to do anything else. Because just every single one of us in here would have enough people that we've influenced and changed the world for the better. Make sense? We have to have a lot of courage. Here's the thing about running a business, running a home, managing your life, managing classes. A lot of times you get discouraged. Is anybody else in here that gets discouraged? Dare you would. Right? You get discouraged. Right? You look at everything in front of you and you recognize this is not looking good. Or my favorite, this is not in the plan. Anybody planners in here? Okay, good. I'm not the only one. I sit there and I look at my plans and I rewrite them just to make sure that something's not done right. I'm like, hey, the computer messed it up. I'm gonna retype this sucker again. Tell you what. That's what I'm gonna do. And then guess what happens? The results are the same. We get discouraged. And we have to recognize that sometimes the results don't really tell the whole picture. Right? Now, a bunch of college students in here, everybody assumes, here's the idea, right? Most of us have been told we need to go out to school, get A's, get B's, or whatever it is that you were told. Half the time we weren't told exactly how to get those grades. But at the end of the day, what are we supposed to be getting? An education. We're supposed to be learning, we're supposed to be growing. Right? In my master's program, my worst grade was in research methods. I know, it was bad. But it's weird because I learned the most out of it. And then I ended up moving on and actually teaching research methods. I don't know what that really means, if that's a good thing or a bad thing. What's my point? Is we always assume that the measures that we use are the things that matter the most. So be very careful the measures that you use, and your courage will always be up when you need it to be. Make sense? You have to learn how to manage a crisis. As leaders, learn how to manage a crisis. Now listen, we all get emotional, whether it's anger, disappointment, whether it's just yelling at people. We all get these moments where we just feel absolute anger and disappointment. How you handle the crisis will tell a lot about the kind of leader that you're becoming. Because if you fall apart in the middle of a crisis, nobody can trust you. I wouldn't follow you if you were my leader if you fell apart, right? It's in those times of crisis when real leadership shows up, right? So you and I have to be very careful with that. You've heard about the Chinese, right? The Chinese symbols. When you look at the word crisis in Chinese writing, one brushstroke is for danger and the other one is for opportunity. There's always an opportunity inside the crisis. You just have to find it. That's what differentiates leaders from those who are led. I don't like to call them followers. Now, you have to have a lot of desire. How many people here have desire for something or someone? Right? We have a lot of desires. But if you desire something enough, right? If you desire something enough, you have the opportunity to attain it. Now, I have to be clear. I don't believe that you can be anything that you want to be. I'm 6'3", I will never be a flight attendant. Okay? Yeah. Broken neck, oh, it's just not gonna work, okay? You and I, what we admire, we're going to start to desire. What we desire, we will start to feel like we require it, I must have it. And eventually what we require, we're going to acquire. But it starts with the area of admiration. When you admire something, when you look at something and you make it little the apple of your eye, it's something that I want, it's a place that I want to go to, you will do whatever it takes. Let me share this very, very quickly. Every single person in this room has a dream. I know it, because every single human being has a dream. I don't mind dreams, but I'm a communication guy, so the semantics are really important to me. I'm tired of people telling me about dreams. Dream big. Yeah, that sounds great. I know a lot of people who go out there and they dream big, but they don't do anything with their dreams. I want you to aspire. That should be the new buzzword, right? Aspire big. Because when you aspire for something, it doesn't matter how big the obstacle is. You will attain what you want to attain. Does that make sense? Now, if I wanted to be a flight attendant, I could. It just would never be on a regional jet, ever. They finally made a plane big enough for me to be a flight attendant on. Does that make sense? So you have to change your dreams and turn them into aspirations, because everybody has a dream, but we have to transfer those dreams into aspirations. Last couple of minutes and then we'll get this wrapped up. Everybody still with me? Yeah. All right. Now, discernment. Leaders have to be discerning. That means you have to use this. I know it's annoying sometimes, but you have to use this. Okay? You really have to. It doesn't feel like it, but you have to. So this is the thing about discernment, right? One person said the first rule of holes: stop digging. It's the number one rule of holes. Most of us do not have enough discernment to recognize we need to stop, right? You start talking and then you realize I shouldn't have said that. Then you figure if I say 15 more things, I can fix that. Now you have 15 other things to fix. It's amazing how 2 words usually fix. 2 words are really the best thing. Things like, I'm sorry. Technically, am is a contraction, so it should be 3 words, but we'll just, make it simple. All the English people, don't panic, okay? So the 2/3 words, I'm sorry, or this 3 words, I was wrong. Any leader that cannot tell you I was wrong, keep both eyes on them. If you wear glasses, keep all 4 on them. Yeah. Just saying. That's another one that that's another favorite of mine. Quick commercial break, right? You ever notice how people tell you things they don't really want to tell, or they don't really want to say out directly, and then they just say, I'm just saying? And you ever notice how they all look the same? I'm just saying. I don't like those shoes. I'm just saying. Anyway, here's my last thought for today. As a leader, you are supposed to be working to empower the people around you. Let's go back to our maestro. The entire orchestra can do nothing without the maestro. When he looks at the brass section, when he looks at the winds, when he looks in every section, they know what they're supposed to do. Now, they could read the music all by themselves. They've got that skill. But they need somebody that they can follow. And they trust someone so much that when they shouldn't play, they don't. When they should play, they do. Does that make sense? A leader's ultimate job is to empower. Listen to this thought. Everything you'll ever need or want is already in your life. It's just waiting for your recognition. Now, anything that's unrecognized becomes unappreciated. And anything that's unappreciated becomes unrewarded. And anything that's unrewarded eventually leaves your life. Your leadership skill, all the things you're learning right now, all the things that you learn in other leadership settings and opportunities, they are meant to help you empower the people around you. So as a leader, are you empowering the people around you? And if you can't answer that question effectively, you will have to get with the people around you that you do trust and ask them, how can I empower you a whole lot better? Thank you so much for having me. You guys enjoy the rest of